I ask that once your morning duties for the ladies of the house are complete, Madame Zariana and yourself wait in the staff quarters.
Aye, detective. But please, you have to help Lizzie. It was all an accident. She doesn't deserve to spend the rest of her days behind bars because of that man.
If she is put behind bars, it is because that is what the courts have decided upon.
I don't know. I'm getting real Les Miserables vibes here. We got Hercule Javert here. The Lord must be followed.
Detective, you can't be so cruel.
I agree with Archibald. I'm with you.
It is not cruelty, monsieur. It is the law.
You're saying that like the law can't be cruel. Are you not paying attention to anything from history? I liked you up until this point. After all these further revelations, my mind is as busy as Monsieur Goulet's chocolate shop. I have all of the pieces of the puzzle to deduce why Elizabeth killed the Major. Now I must allow my little grey cells to put them together. Yeah, he attacked her. To finding these documents in the hidden room, things are starting to fall into place as to why Elizabeth may have killed him. Right, so he's not receiving a pension. That's connected.
What a revelation.
The Major's financial struggles must have left him in need of a source of income. Who could the Major have turned to in his time of need? And he was paid well for his job.
Another success. I never doubted myself.
The Major needed the job to go ahead. It was the only way to guarantee money in his pocket. What could he do to ensure the job would be complete? Oh, he could attack first.
I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction.
To secure his payment, the Major must have ordered the attack at the strikes. What were the consequences of the Major ordering the first attack? Luke died.
Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of
No,
genius.
but no, this isn't. This doesn't make sense. This motive, the motive of Luke dying, and Elizabeth finding out, doesn't fit. That makes it sound like a cold-blooded murder when it clearly wasn't. Just from the I don't know, it clearly wasn't, but it just doesn't seem to fit in my head with her coming down pale from his body. And also being that Margot said it was a defensive wound. This doesn't. All have agreed who would have been most affected by this. Yes, Elizabeth is the murderer. There's your connection.
Magnifique.
Elizabeth has probably lost more than anyone else involved. She may have sought her revenge. No, I don't think that doesn't make sense. These two, maybe?
I must take a different approach if
he needed the money for that. Killed the prisoner's born, he's blackmailed.
The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together.
This information would destroy his reputation if unveiled, a strong motive for blackmail. Elizabeth doesn't seem like the vengeful type, but all signs are pointing to her seeking revenge for her beloved Luke. No, it doesn't! What are you talking about? It doesn't. If I'm to confront Mademoiselle Elizabeth, I must be at my best, and my little grey cells are their most alert. It's time to at least try and rest. I have no time to wallow in my lack of sleep. I must confront Mademoiselle Elizabeth and hopefully finally know the truth of what took place.
Detective Poirot, I'm glad you're awake.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. It has certainly not been a night of peaceful sleep. There is something that
I assume that's why she's come into your bedroom.
Please, detective, I'm not sure I can take any more surprises like last night.
I'm afraid this may be the most upsetting.
Don't you dare, you don't have all the information.
You have found Felix's killer, haven't you?
I have. And the guilty party will certainly come as a shock.
No, we haven't got enough information. I take no great pleasure in telling you this, mademoiselle.
Detective, please.
It was Mademoiselle Elizabeth that was behind the Major's death.
You must be mistaken. Elizabeth could not do so.
Yeah, not deliberately, yeah.
I assure you I am not. It is something I spent much of last night deliberating.
He's an idiot.
When you spoke of the telephone lines being out of order, it made me question the conversation I thought I had heard Monsieur Sterling make with the Major before connecting the call to him.
But it hasn't been working all weekend.
Exactement, mademoiselle. That is when I knew I had once again been lied to.
On my way to speaking with Monsieur Sterling, Mademoiselle Rihanna, I met Mademoiselle Elizabeth.
She was meant to be resting in the staff quarters. She has not been well.
I am afraid that was yet another lie, orchestrated to keep her from incriminating herself.
Why would you think that, Detective?
I only managed a few words with her before we were quite abruptly interrupted by Monsieur Sterling.
I must admit, he has a habit of speaking over the other staff.
It was much more than merely disturbing our conversation. It was done with the intention to prevent Mademoiselle saying something that she should not.
So, Elizabeth killed Felix, and then Archibald helped her cover it up?
In its simplest form, oui. I have heard it directly from the horse's mouth.
You have spoken with Elizabeth already? Did she admit
No, exactly my point.
Not Elizabeth, but Monsieur Sterling.
Were you not woken last night by the tremendous amount of noise coming from the storage room?
I wasn't. What were you doing in there, Detective?
It was Monsieur Sterling that I found in there. I was taken by some surprise to hear anyone awake at that hour.
What on earth was he doing?
He claimed he was merely reminiscing of his time with the family.
You don't believe him?
It did not take long for me to uncover the truth of why he was there, and the location of the Major's murder weapon.
Did you know of the hidden area within the storage room?
Hidden area?
A room that held all of the Major's secrets.
I had no idea. Did you discover the reason for his blackmail?
I did. Were you aware he was dishonorably discharged from
No,
the
because she calls him Major.
Dishonorably? What does that mean?
I will not hide the truth from Mademoiselle, but I will try and be as delicate as possible with the news of the Major's prior actions. I'm sure you're aware of Monsieur Zachariah's troubles he faces from his time in the war.
Yes, Gideon told me about the conversation you had. It is really quite upsetting.
Zachariah was adamant of the Major's cruelty during the war, but the extent was not known until now. He killed a number of prisoners, men that were friends of Zachariah.
Surely not. He would not do such a thing. They must have been trying to escape.
I am afraid not. They were in fact unarmed.
Oh, Detective.
It is the reason he was discharged, denied his military pension, and I believe the reason he fled England.
He had been such an important part of my life for so long, but I feel like I hardly knew him.
Monsieur Sterling was adamant of Mademoiselle Elizabeth's innocence.
Innocence? You said it was she that killed him.
It was her hand that held the knife, but he was quite insistent it happened in self-defense.
In all of the years I have known her, she has barely even raised her voice. I cannot believe she would do something like that out of
Thank you.
The whole truth cannot be known until Mademoiselle Elizabeth has told her story.
I allowed my perception of her character conceal any thought of her involvement. It seems I'm not the only one. Oh, yes, we know that she It doesn't match with the character we've seen after the events either, that she's done it out in cold blood. So this whole deduction thing has been wrong. The time's come to confront Mademoiselle Elizabeth. I don't like it.
Will you allow me to be present?
I think that is an excellent idea. I hope your presence will calm her and will perhaps allow her to speak more freely.
Please, Detective. I know she has done a terrible thing, but I beg of you to give her the time to explain herself.
I will offer Mademoiselle Elizabeth the fair trial that she deserves, as I would with any suspect.
You can't offer a trial. This isn't a courtroom.
Thank you, Detective Poirot.
Would you bring Mademoiselle Elizabeth to the study, where we will not be disturbed?
Of course, I'll find her immediately.
I believe that Mr. Sterling has already told me about the events that occurred between Mademoiselle Elizabeth and the Major. I do not believe she would have had to do what she did if he had not attacked her and pushed her to the point where she feared for her life. So why was the deduction saying it was to do with Luke? I must listen to her story, the truth, and only then can her punishment be determined.
Mademoiselle Elizabeth, merci for joining us.
Miss Angeline said you requested to see me urgently.
We have some serious matters to discuss, and I would like to waste no further time.
Oh, yes, Detective.
How are you feeling, mademoiselle? Let's not waste any time. Let's go with small talk. How are you feeling, mademoiselle?
Still not quite myself.
I was surprised when Monsieur Sterling hurried you to assist Madame Vandenbosch last night.
I should not have avoided my duties for so long. The house does not stop because I'm feeling a little under the weather.
That is true, but you cannot be expected to complete all your tasks if you are not in the right frame of mind.
Honestly, Detective, it was best for me to not sit and wallow anymore.
I understand Luke was not only involved in the strikes, but was on the front line.
Yes, that is where he spent his last moments. Standing shoulder to shoulder with his fellow workers.
The resulting riots were a terrible tragedy. One that I hope we will not have to see or experience again. Something that could have been avoided had the Major and his team done what was required of them.
Nobody deserved to die that day. Not my Luke.
And my investigation has taken me down many paths.
Have you been able to uncover who the blackmailer is?
The blackmailer's identity has been established, and they will pay the price for their crimes.
Wonderful news, Detective. You can put it all behind you now. You must be thrilled.
I would not say thrilled, knowing that such a close friend has betrayed us.
Mademoiselle is correct. What I have learned over this weekend is that people are not always as they appear. While they may give an impression of being a friend or ally, they can in fact be something completely different.
And, what of the Major's killer?
Well, mademoiselle, that is why I have asked you here now.
I posed the question to all of the guests what their thoughts on the Major were. Now I extend that question to you.
I'm not quite sure what you want me to say, Detective.
Your honest opinion is all I ask, and, s'il te plaît, do not hold back. No one else felt it necessary.
We only spoke when there was something in the house to be done. We did not speak of interests or pastimes.
You knew of his work with Monsieur de Silva?
I only know what is required of me to know, and that is very
Oh,
But you were aware of his work as security at Monsieur de Silva's factory.
I was.
The factory your beloved Luke worked at before he was cruelly taken from this world.
Yes, Detective.
do you blame the Major for his death?
Detective, what kind of question is that?
It is a straightforward one.
He...
Mademoiselle, if there is something you wish to tell me, now is that time.
I'm sorry, Detective, I just don't know how to answer it.
Let us consider what we know of the Major. He fronted the militia that attacked the workers at the strike. You were aware of this? You finally had someone to blame for Luke's death. Someone conveniently located in the same house, alone in his study.
No, Detective. It wasn't like that.
Tell me what happened with the Major on the evening of his death.
I was only in here trying to prove what I heard Mr. Beckers say. I was going to report him, I swear. Miss Angeline, you believe me, don't you?
I want to. I am still trying to understand it all myself. Why don't you start from the beginning?
I was delivering Miss Angeline's dress to her room when I heard Mr. Beckers arguing with the Major in his study. They were ever so loud. I thought the whole house would have been listening to what they were saying. Mr. Beckers was talking about the factory strikes and how it was the Major's fault. He told him that if he didn't own up to his crimes, he would go to the newspapers.
I cannot imagine the Major would have taken kindly to Monsieur Becker's threat.
He didn't. He called him some rather uncouth names before Mr. Beckers left and went downstairs. I made sure to keep out of sight. After the altercation between the Major and Master Gideon, you went to speak with him outside, and I thought I could look around his study without anyone knowing. I had to know for sure. If it was true, he deserved to be held accountable.
And did you find the proof you are looking for?
I found a payment from Mr. De Silva, but there was nothing incriminating about that. I was so nervous. I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest.
And then you saw the blackmail note.
I recognized the writing on the envelope. I couldn't believe it. How could he do such a thing to Angeline? To the family that had taken him in?
Common sense would determine the Major was another victim of the blackmailer.
If I'd have used common sense, I wouldn't have been snooping around alone in his study in the first place. I heard the footsteps in the hall, and before I could move, the Major was standing in front of me, demanding to know why I was going through his belongings without permission. I tried to come up with an excuse, but nothing came out, and when he saw the letter in my hand, it was like Dr. Jekyll turning into Mr. Hyde. I tried to move around him towards the door, but he hurled something towards me, and it crashed against the wall.
Okay, so that explains the plaster.
That would explain the damage.
Ah.
To the wall.
I froze. I have never been so scared in all my life. I thought he was going to kill me there and then.
And you thought you would beat him to it?
Oh, Detective, you make it sound as though I had it all planned. He lunged forward and grabbed me by the arm. I tried to push him away, but he was too strong. His grip just got tighter and tighter. If only you had seen the look in his eyes, I dared not even scream. I saw the sheath on his belt. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to hurt him, but he wouldn't let go of me.
So you took your opportunity to put an end to it all.
Poirot, for the whole kind of I'm going to follow the evidence where it leads, you seem to be rather focused on one particular outcome.
I just wanted to get him off me. I didn't want to hurt him. I reached for it and I jabbed it at him. His grip instantly loosened and I ran straight out the door and didn't look back.
You did not even look to see what state you had left him in?
She had just been attacked.
Yeah.
Oui, please.
You
Don't
should be ashamed.
I ran down to the pantry looking for Rahana. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I explained to her what had happened and she went to find Archie. She said he would know what to do. We went back to the study and he was still lying there, motionless. Archie said that no one would believe me. That if someone like me killed someone like him, I would be sent straight to the gallows. He left the letter so you would find it. He said that if people knew what the Major was really like, then they wouldn't care what happened to him.
So I am to believe that it was Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna that cleaned the scene and orchestrated a plan that included a fake telephone call and dressing as the Major so that he may be seen. You had nothing to do with that.
I swear I had no idea that is what they had done. Archie just told me to stay out of sight. I am no master criminal.
Then Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna will be charged for obstruction of justice and impeding my investigation.
Please, Detective, they were only trying to help me.
If they wished to help you, they should have brought all of this to my attention immediately instead of committing more illegal acts.
I get that this is kind of a classic thing that you see in a lot of shows where they kind of cover it up and that's the big thing. Like, it's an accident, but it's covered up and that's the big kind of problem that brings in all the kind of detectives and everything. But it's like Poirot seems to be very gung-ho. He wants to arrest someone. I think he just wants to arrest someone. He's not done it in a while. He just wants to arrest someone.
Surely you haven't forgotten what happened with Fleurette. She was only accused of stealing a bracelet. I killed a man.
It is a day I have not forgotten, mademoiselle. Even for a moment.
Without your help, I don't stand a chance. Please, Detective Poirot, you are the only one that can help me.
Oh, Elizabeth, why didn't you come to me?
I didn't think you would believe me. I felt so guilty. And when it was announced yesterday that he was a victim of the blackmailer, I wanted to tell you everything. I came to find you last night, Detective, but Archie stopped me. I'm sorry.
Come, my little grey cells, let us solve this mystery.